In the middle of the city, there's breaking news about a sneaky con artist who's been scamming nearly 30% of the population, racking up a whopping 100 billion won. An anonymous tip leads to the discovery of this guy who's been pulling scams since he was a kid and is still on the run. He's identified as Han Junwoo, a 35-year-old man who's likely using a fake name and is off the grid. As the report airs, the hooded figure smirks through the crowd. The main character watches the news, lets out a sigh at the photo they show, and thinks there's no point in worrying about it anymore. Time gets some rest. Fast forward 30 years and we see a young boy getting questioned over a missing item. He's crying and insists he hasn't seen anything. The stranger, fooled by the kid's innocent look, believes him. Sensing trouble is brewing, he decides to make himself scarce. Next thing you know, he finds himself outside a fancy daycare for rich kids. It feels completely out of his league since he is not even married. Then it hits him. He remembers bumping into a woman earlier. While she was focusing on not spilling her wine, he casually takes her ring off without even realizing it. She's just relieved that the wine stays in the glass. After a quick apology, he disappears and goes back to his hideout. But luck isn't on his side. The ring slips from his hand and rolls across the floor, landing right by our young hero, who's playing nearby. Out of sight from the stranger, he's sure the ring landed in front of the boy. But the kid is still sobbing, completely clueless about what just happened. The stranger starts to panic, worried that the crying will draw attention. When he steps outside to search for the ring, a woman approaches the boy and asks him why he's crying, pointing out that he doesn't seem to fit in there. The stranger overhears and freezes. The woman asks if he's the boy's dad. He gets tense and says no, but in his head, he knows denying it will just make things worse. Thinking fast, he says his kid is inside. Just then, the boy runs up, calls him daddy, and hugs him tight. Caught off guard, the man holds the boy, who's sniffling and saying sorry for asking for too many toys. Feeling panicked, the man quietly asks why the kid called him dad. People nearby start whispering, thinking he's ditching the kid. Someone even comments on how cold people have become. Feeling the heat, the man picks up the boy and walks away, saying no kid of his should ever feel abandoned. As they step outside, he demands to know who the kid is and why he called him dad. The boy just shrugs and says he felt it because he knew the man was lying, and asks if their little game is done. The man looks puzzled. He has no idea what the kid's talking about. But the boy laughs, saying it was fun while it lasted. When the man asks where he lives, the boy shrugs again, saying he has no home or parents. That hits the man hard. The kid is homeless, just like him. The boy explains he just drifts around and blends, and until other kids' parents show up, no one notices and no one cares. Then, without missing a beat, he pulls something from his pocket. It's the man's ring. That is when Nam-go, the man, starts piecing it together. This kid's playing him like a pro, acting all clueless like a kindergartner. Even Nam, who thinks he's seen it all, can't believe it. And the kid can't be more than 5 or 6. Nam's curiosity is piqued. The boy notices Nam's serious face and finds him a bit scary. Nam is shocked that how can a kid that age tell he's scared? But the truth is, Nam's not scared of the boy, he's scared of how talented he is. Without saying anything, Nam reaches out his hand, bows a little, and offers the boy a place with him. The kid's eyes light up. For the first time, someone's reaching out to him. He grabs Nam's hand right away, feeling like he finally found the family he always wanted. Just like that, the boy decides Nam-go is gonna be his first ever dad. What neither of them knows at that moment is that the boy isn't just getting one dad. He's about to get 3 more caretakers too. One day, while they're eating and watching TV, the boy asks what the people on the screen are doing. Nam tells him it's a game just like the ones he plays, but this one's meant to win money. One of the caretakers asks if the boy wants to join in. Nam instantly tenses up, but before he can say anything, the others jump in, encouraging the boy to go for it. Feeling like it's a family thing, the boy dives right in without a second thought. Later that night, the boy spots a guy on the street and puts on his saddest face. He tells the guy he's all alone and asks for help. Moved by the sight, the stranger hands him a bunch of cash. The boy runs straight to his caretaker and gives it to him. He says the guy totally bought the act and asks when his next performance is. The caretaker freezes for a moment, then smiles. He realizes just how valuable this kid's going to be. From then on, the boy dives headfirst into the con with his 3 caretakers. Every scam goes off without a hitch. They never mess up. As time goes by, the boy grows up and doesn't just help anymore. He starts coming up with the plans himself. He loves watching people fall for his tricks. It's like he has the world at his fingertips. Eventually, he's not just part of the family, he's a full-on member of the con crew. As time passes, things come to a head one day when Junwoo blows up at one of his caretakers. He's tired of being overlooked. The caretaker argues that their current job is worth a fortune and way too big to just walk away from, even if it's gotten out of hand. Another caretaker turns to Junwoo, asking if he could find a way out. He says if anyone can figure out a loophole, it's him. But Junwoo, feeling worn out, says there's nothing left. They've got to quit. One of them grabs him in panic. Junwoo pushes him off, saying it's over if they get caught again. Still, they're clinging to the hope that he can save them. Deep down, they know that if this goes south, they're all in trouble together. Nam jumps in to try and calm the situation. He says it's time to call it quits. Junwoo wants to fight back but notices Nam's hands are shaking. That silent moment says everything. He realizes he can't drag them down with him. So he makes up his mind. If there's any way to save things, it has to start with him taking the fall. He starts thinking about how fear has followed him around since the very beginning. He never wanted to get caught up in scamming, and it just sort of happened. But now here he is stuck in jail and buried under the mess of it all, feeling one thing above all: regret. He can't stand regret. It feels pointless, but it just takes hold of him. He's all alone. He believes his dads were blinded by greed. He spent his whole life running away. Now feeling totally numb, he shuts his eyes, ready for it all to be over. Then, out of nowhere, someone yells in his ear. He opens his eyes to see one of his dads grabbing a chicken leg. The other one is trying to top that by feeding their son. Junwoo just sits there, completely shocked. Suddenly, everything shifts. His fathers tell him he needs to chill because high school is on the way. His mind is racing with questions, and the thought of high school only makes it worse. The story moves on with Junwoo, one of Junwoo's caretakers, getting ready for their next scam. He's got this plan where they'll pretend to be gangsters and hang out at a spot while Junwoo finishes up school. Junwoo stays quiet, feeling a bit off, like he doesn't really fit in at that moment. Sanwoo raises his voice, asking if Junwoo is even paying attention. Still lost in thought, Junwoo drifts back to a memory from Sanwoo's middle school days, realizing it was about 20 years ago. Out of the blue, Junwoo jumps in with an idea. He suggests they could use the school principal to their advantage. If they make it seem like the principal's son is mixed up with their fake company, they can gain his trust. Junwoo says he'll take the principal to a hotel in Incheon and have him sign a fake contract. After they seal the deal, they'll head to a new spot where Jang Soonwoo and Park Hyung-sik will be waiting, dressed up like gangsters. If the principal tries to back out, they can pressure him by saying he's linked to some criminals. That's when they'll demand a big payout to keep things quiet. Junwoo then asks if that's really the plan they're going with. One of the dads tells him to watch his tone. Junwoo just calmly says he's not going to take the lead on this job and is stepping back. Nam glances at him, confused. He wonders how Junwoo knew parts of the plan they hadn't even talked about yet. Feeling a quiet pride, he thinks maybe Junwoo is just having a rough time. Sanwoo chimes in, saying that Junwoo has a knack for spotting good opportunities. He moves quick like a wild animal when he senses something's up. But another caretaker starts to get annoyed with Junwoo's attitude. Regardless, they keep working on the plan while Junwoo sits back and watches. Later in the bathroom, Junwoo stares at himself in the mirror and lets out a sigh. Nothing feels different. After all these years, they're still cooking up the same scams. He had a hunch about it before, but now he's sure he's somehow gone back 35 years in time. He's a middle schooler again. It all feels super real. Both lives feel real. And now that he's back, he gets to relive everything. But what's really bothering him is wondering what kind of trouble he's about to get pulled into next. Then his dad shows up with their next scheme and hands him the documents. Our boy checks things out and says this mission has a built-in trap, but he confidently adds that he can handle it his way. It's a big deal and risky. His dad, always serious, reminds him that their jobs are never truly safe. The boy gets it. He knows Zhang and Jungwon will bail as soon as things get rough. What's weird is his name isn't on the list with the other three involved. His dad asks if he's scared. He coolly replies that he's been in this game forever. Fear isn't even part of the deal anymore. He jokes that he's only going to school because the target is the principal. His dad tells him to keep a low profile and avoid making too many friends. As long as he sticks to that, everything will go smoothly. His dad reminds him they're the only ones who will ever really get him. But deep down, the boy can't shake off the past. In his previous life, he pulled off tons of flawless jobs. Nothing went wrong when he was in charge. If anything did, it was usually because of the greedy guys who raised him. They made him think they were family, keeping him sheltered from the real world. He remembers how they protected him, scared he might start thinking for himself or want to break free. Yet in all that chaos, there was one guy who truly cared, and it's Nam. Nam always told him he didn't have to follow their path. If he ever wanted out, he just had to say so. Back then, the boy brushed him off, thinking Nam's kindness came from some grudge or resentment. Now he gets it. Nam just wanted to look out for him and hoped he'd choose a different life. He once asked what kind of future the boy envisioned. When the boy replied he had no idea, Nam threw out some ideas. Maybe he could be an office worker or a counselor since he was good with words, or even an actor since he loved performing. Back then, our boy never really thought about acting, but maybe Nam's onto something now. Now in the present, Nam notices he seems a bit off and asks if he's up for some meat. Sitting at the table, our boy takes in the meal for the first time. He used to dislike this dish, but now he feels the warmth it brings. Nam gently nudges him, asking if there's anything he wants to talk about. After a moment of silence, our boy finally says, "I'm going to die." At school, the teacher tells everyone to line up. It's pouring outside, and he's grumbling about how some of the kids are running late. Just then, he spots our boy showing up and yells at him to hurry up. Our boy checks his phone and sees a message from his dad wishing him a good trip. The instructor keeps urging everyone to hop on the bus because they're about to leave. Later, inside one of the school buildings, the teacher kicks back in a room, complaining about the trouble the kids cause. He opens a box and grins when he sees the liquor bottles inside, thinking that this is the only thing that makes these trips worthwhile. As he looks at the bottles, he laughs about how the kids don't even know how to drink right, but are still curious about the good stuff. He starts debating whether to grab a drink with Teacher Yuil today or catch up with Teacher Hyunsu after a while. The door suddenly flies open. Hyunmu storms in looking seriously annoyed. His face is all tense like he's had it up to here. The instructor yells at him, wondering who he thinks he is for barging in like that. Junwoo just flips the question back at him. When the instructor insists he deserves respect since he's the teacher, Junwoo shoots back that the head teacher told him to clear out. Figuring the kids were being too noisy, he thought he'd just catch a nap in this room. The instructor totally loses it and demands to know his name in class. He grabs Junwoo's collar, threatening to teach him a lesson. That's when Junwoo snaps, swats the guy's hand away, and dares him to bring on every teacher he can. He reminds the instructor that not long ago, someone like him was beaten up by his dad and uncles. Junwoo is calmly chilling on the couch when the instructor catches sight of a black tattoo on his body. A chill goes down his spine as he wonders what kind of middle schooler sports a tattoo like that. He can't help but think Junwoo's family might be involved with the mob. Junwoo tells the instructor to stop acting tough and just leave, saying to bring whoever he wants. Clearly rattled, the instructor backs out of the room, saying he'll call a teacher. Leaning back, Junwoo thinks about how easy it was to get rid of the guy and glances at the drinks, smiling a little. Before long, the instructor comes back with a teacher and starts explaining everything in a panic. The teacher seems skeptical since Junwoo has always been quiet and hasn't caused any trouble. Still anxious, the instructor insists that Junwoo mentioned having mob connections. The teacher, unsure, agrees to check out the room. When they open the door, Junwoo has already vanished. Now the instructor starts to freak out, wondering where he went. The teacher picks up on the smell of alcohol on the table and gets suspicious. The instructor tries to defend himself, claiming he didn't touch the liquor, but the teacher points out the bottle and notices it smells like someone had been smoking in there too. Still not convinced, the teacher leaves the room, clearly unsure of who's telling the truth. He looks out the window, trying to figure out where Junwoo might have run off to. Meanwhile, Junwoo is already far away, standing quietly at the riverbank, away from the school. He stares at the rushing water below the cliff, realizing the act he was putting on is finally over. This is the last part, he tells himself. He thought it would feel like a weight off his shoulders, but even now, standing on the edge feels strangely empty. He reflects on his life, realizing that for years he thought he was living in some sort of movie. The truth hits harder though. It's just been a con artist scamming people and living a life of crime. Sticking around in this world would just lead him down the same path again. Today, he decides, will be the end of Junwoo's 35-year life. Holding a bottle in his hand, he closes his eyes, certain of one thing. This is a perfect day to die. Two guys shout at him, demanding to know what he is doing up there. He turns around just as one of them rushes forward, urging him to step away from the edge and warning that it is too dangerous. But our boy takes another step closer to the edge and says this is where it ends. It is time to finish the drawing. Without hesitation, he takes one last step back and leaps off. His thoughts are filled with the wreckage left behind by his fathers and his past, which was nothing but ruins. The story takes a wild turn when the super upset CEO rants about the actors bailing again, even after doubling their pay for travel. His assistant asks what they should do with just 5 hours left until the show. The CEO tells them to issue ticket refunds, check the expenses, and get a report ready. The assistant throws out the idea of suing for damages, but wonders why the CEO always ends up fixing everything. The CEO shrugs it off, figuring that small theater actors probably don't have any money anyway. He suggests sending quick apology texts to customers without getting into long explanations. As the CEO walks away, the assistant sighs, thinking that the boss is too soft-hearted but still a genuinely good guy. Ju Mansik, the CEO, thinks about how trust in business has become just a fancy word. 5 years back, he was a respected National Assembly member, moving up fast at 45. But with success came a bunch of opportunists and even people he thought he could trust turned against him. Caught up in endless political games, he ended up being framed for bribery. The media tore him apart, and suddenly everyone vanished. With nothing left, he ditched politics and opened a small theater, hoping for a fresh start. At first, it was looking good. Even though it was way out in the countryside, the theater started getting attention for featuring unknown but super talented actors, earning a rep for uncovering hidden gems. But the success didn't stick around. The actors took off for bigger dreams in Seoul. This is the third time it happens. Mansik starts to wonder if the problem is with him or if that is just how things go. Now back to the present. As he walks into the room, he hears some light sounds. Thinking he left it on, Mansik opens the door and finds someone fully absorbed in a performance. He gets a feeling it is that same boy who has been popping by lately. He looks like he's in high school, but is dressed in a work uniform and always drops off a couple of bills. He's the closest thing to a regular in a theater that doesn't really have any. Mansik asks him his name. The boy, who's about to become a big part of it all, says he doesn't have one. Mansik gets a bit annoyed. The kid never shares his name, even though everyone has one. He asks how old he is and whether he goes to school. The boy says he's 17 and doesn't go to school. Then he apologizes for staying late. Mansik wonders when he scolded him for that. The boy pulls out some cash, saying he really enjoys the show. Even though it cuts off midway, he still wants to pay. Mansik raises his voice, asking when he ever asked for money. But as he reaches for the boy's hand, he notices bruises on his wrist. Mansik asks what happened. The boy brushes it off, saying it's nothing. He'll just put on a patch at home and sleep. Then he thanks Mansik for worrying about him. There's a weird silence between them. The boy starts to leave, but Mansik asks if he only likes watching plays. He mentions they have more recorded shows and scripts in the back. He jokes that he probably sounds like a tired guy trying to offer candy to a kid. The boy just stands there, not saying much. Mansik tells him to come in, get checked out quickly, and then head out. Surprisingly, they end up at a restaurant. Mansik laughs, saying he thought Junwoo would just ignore him and walk off. Maybe he's just hungry. While they're eating, Junwoo says Mansik reminds him of someone. Mansik replies that's a pretty bland answer. Then he asks why a kid like him is stuck with such a tough job. He points out that Junwoo is young, good-looking, and probably has better choices. The boy responds that everyone has their reasons. Mansik pulls out a paper. The boy asks what it is. Mansik explains it's a new script he just got called A Chance Encounter. Our boy grabs the script and starts reading it, not just skimming, but really diving into every line. He gets totally absorbed in the writing. Suddenly, Mansik snatches the script back, saying that's enough. It's not out yet, and he didn't mean to share it. He figures a kid from the countryside would not know much anyway, but the way our boy reads it makes him rethink things. Maybe he has been a bit careless. Our hero says thanks for letting him read it. Mansik looks a bit surprised. That's it. He asks if our boy thinks it's going to be a hit. Our hero shrugs, he's not sure about anything. Mansik insists he really put his heart into this piece. It's from a writer who's all about perfection, and not a single word is wasted. Junwoo just stays quiet. Mansik wonders if he doesn't like it because it's a romance. Junwoo says that's not the case. He just isn't sure it fits Mansik's theater. Mansik looks confused, asking what he means. Junwoo starts quoting the second line from the first page, which describes three characters named Juyang, Heeju, and Yujin coming in from the side with umbrellas. Then he echoes the dialogue where Juyang talks about an ideal type, mentioning how none of the people she dated before have anything in common. As Junwoo keeps quoting, he describes how another character, Young Soo, enters from the opposite side with his umbrella, stunning the other three. Mansik is blown away. Our hero nails the lines and stage directions perfectly from memory. In less than a minute, he points out a small flaw in the script. Mansik asks what the problem in the story has to do with the theater. Our boy explains it's exactly where the characters meet while delivering that line. He adds that if we picture the three of them walking and chatting, they cover about 20 steps in 30 seconds, but on stage, they can only take 13. Plus, since they are holding umbrellas, even with bright lights, they will be cast in shadows. The main character's entrance is an issue too. If they are hiding behind an umbrella, it loses its punch. He suggests switching the scene from walking to school to waiting at a bus stop. That way, the characters can stay put, and they can deliver the full dialogue without any interruptions. As the scene unfolds, another guy shows up holding an umbrella and briefly blocks the main character by pointing it toward the audience, which adds some suspense. Then the character casually munches on something, but it still feels pretty dramatic. Mansik starts sweating while listening. Our boy just shrugs and says it's just an idea and maybe it would be easier. He keeps eating like it's no big deal. Without saying much, Manhwa hands over all the papers and tells him to keep going, eager to hear his thoughts on the rest. Our hero flips through the notes. Manhwa is blown away. Everything this kid said about stage movements, audience, sightlines, lighting angles, and the exact timing for breathing breaks is spot on. Even a group of pros would have a tough time getting it right. And yet this kid made it all look so easy. After checking out all the notes, our hero puts them back. Manhwa asks when he started learning about directing, thinking it's clear he must have had some formal training in a theater group. He digs a little deeper, wondering if our hero had been watching plays closely and even suspects he might have designed the storyboard himself. He's curious if our hero's current gig is anything related to theater work. Our boy replies that he's sorry, but this is actually his first time attending a play. He only came because there was no movie theater around. Manhwa takes this in, remembering the first time he saw our boy about 3 weeks ago. It hits him hard that this high schooler managed to soak up everything about stage performance in such a short time. He realizes that plays are way more than just acting. They mix writing, music, lighting, and direction, all guided by people with experience. But this kid figured it all out on his own with just a script and some observation. Manhwa wants to challenge him more. He suggests reworking the script based on our hero's insights to see if he can tackle deeper aspects like character roles and scene execution. Our hero isn't having it. He says he can't do that without knowing who the actors are. Manhwa knows he's asking for a lot. Writing dialogue and directing performances are two totally different ballgames, but he jokes that maybe it comes down to talent. Our hero tells him that to truly play a role, you have to know a person's life, their habits, and how they talk and move. It is not guessing, but watching closely. Manhwa realizes this kid is more than smart. It feels a little unsettling. The boy says smiling in the mirror boosts confidence without you noticing, which helps playing a murderer. Manhwa stays shocked as the boy thanks him for the food and walks away. Manhwa feels like he's been spellbound. He wonders where this kid came from. So many questions pop into his head, but he's sure they'll run into each other again tomorrow. The next day, our boy gets into a spat with his boss. He's there to collect the money the guy owes him. The boss plays dumb, faking that he doesn't have any cash left with him. Our hero insists, saying the man promised him exactly 587,000 won. The guy is getting really frustrated. Someone next to him quietly comments that when folks say later, it usually means they're never gonna do it. That's just how it is. Our guy realizes they're not even paying up. He lets out a sigh, thinking he tried to brush it off. They always come up with excuses about hard times or some future gig, and he always lets it slide. But it's obvious they're going after young workers who don't have anyone backing them up. He knows they pulled this stunt on others too. Still, he can't help but wonder where else he could possibly find a job. Then, out of nowhere, a loud voice bursts in from outside. Someone storms through the door, mad as hell. He's shouting about his missing paycheck. It's Manhwa. A while ago, Manhwa sat alone in his theater, wondering why Junwoo hadn't shown up today. He became worried when he realized it's already past the time our boy usually arrives. In the flashback, Manhwa's assistant soon shows up, so Manhwa asks him if he knows where a 17-year-old would likely be. Confused, his assistant wonders why he's asking him such strange questions, but guesses a 17-year-old would be at school by this time. Manhwa retorts that the kid doesn't attend school but works at the construction site, so the assistant suggests that they check the construction site. Doing that hadn't occurred to Manhwa earlier, so his assistant points out that the kid must be at the construction site now. Excited, Manhwa zooms off and doesn't listen to his assistant, who tries to remind him he has a meeting to attend. As he races to the construction site, he wonders why he didn't think of this earlier. He soon reaches the site drenched in sweat. Although he's not sure if he got the right place, he overhears a loud conversation going on nearby. He goes near to eavesdrop for a while, and after he overhears them, he bursts in to challenge the crooked men who took Junwoo's pay. His entrance shocks the men inside, so Junwoo's boss tries to point out that this area is off-limits to unauthorized personnel. However, Manhwa berates the men for shamelessly cheating a kid out of his money. Still annoyed, he overturns their table of money and calls them filthy bastards. The men frantically ask him what he's doing, so he threatens to report them to the labor department. Junwoo simply stands there and watches the whole thing expressionlessly, but Manhwa soon asks him what he's standing there for. As the men try to pick up their money, Manhwa drags our boy out and tells him there's no need to waste time dealing with scum like this. When they get back to the theater, Manhwa can't stop cursing at the men, so he asks our guy why he's even putting up with that crap. Still expressionless, our boy asks him why he's so angry. Still annoyed, Manhwa asks him if he's not upset about not getting paid and suggests that he report them all and get them arrested. Junwoo asks him why he would do that, so the man angrily points out that he's supposed to say thank you once an adult offers help instead of talking back. For a moment, there's silence in the room. When Mansik notices the bandage around our guy's hand, he suggests that he stop doing that kind of work and just work in the theater. The man begins to calculate how much they lost last month, while Junwoo looks at him with suspicion. Suddenly, our guy asks him why he's offering him that. After giving it some thought, Mansik tells him he can get to watch plays he likes if he works there, which is good. However, our boy is a tough nut to crack, so he asks Mansik why he's helping him. The man points out that he's not helping him, but coincidentally a part-timer quit, so he's looking for someone. Suddenly, our guy asks the man if he has a lot of money. He points out that the man always seems stressed, so it doesn't look like he has money to pay him. That comment stings Mansik, so he asks the kid if he's worried that he'll cheat him out of his pay. With a straight face, our boy tells him that he is, so Mansik begins cursing again. The man eventually restrains himself and explains that he'll ensure he gets paid even if he has to work at a construction site in his place. After a moment's pause, Mansik recalls that he can't remember everything the kid said yesterday and he's not able to prove them yet. But he can't seem to shake off the emotion, so he can't afford to let someone like him work at a construction site. He knows everyone has a place they belong. Even though hiring him may be a loss for him right now, he's certain that he wants to keep this boy by his side. After carefully watching the man for a while, Junwoo finally asks him if part-timers also get to watch plays like he said earlier. Sometime later, Mansik waits outside for our boy and wonders why he isn't coming out. He suspects the kid is more meticulous than he thought. It's been a week since the boy started working at the theater. They were supposed to have a rehearsal before, but because the room was a bit messy, Mansik had told him to clean it up a bit. It's already been 3 hours, so Mansik wonders if he has obsessive-compulsive disorder. Since this shouldn't take more than an hour, the man goes to check on him. When he enters, he's surprised to find books littered all over the floor. Junwoo explains that the shelf where the scripts were placed fell over. Mansik pictures that the shelf fell over while the kid was arranging them, so he got completely caught up in the story and the scripts. However, he notices some more mess, so he asks our boy what he's doing. Junwoo explains that he wanted to read the script once and he had read it once. Mansik points out that just reading that script wouldn't cause all the mess on the table, so he asks the kid if he was performing. When Mansik notices the kid is reading a Russian play, he asks him why he chose that one when they have plenty of Korean scripts around. Suddenly, our guy points out that he's read the rest of the scripts, so Mansik almost chokes on his spit. To explain, the kid points out that he has read every book neatly arranged on the shelf. It seems he's arranging each book after reading them. The director looks at the shelf filled up with books, and he can't believe that this kid has read all those books in a short period. He asks again if our boy is really saying he's read all of that. It's clear that this is the reason the boy is reading a Russian script, so he asks him if he even speaks Russian. Our boy explains that he doesn't and points at a Russian dictionary. Confused, Mansik explains that the dictionary is only good for looking up words. Our boy adds that he looked up a few words so he could more or less get the gist of the script. Now the director is more than stunned. This kid was able to rearrange the scenery to fit what is happening in the book just by recognizing a few Russian words. Looking closely at the book, Mansik recognizes the book he's reading. He himself had studied that script several times in the past. The scene our boy is considering right now is one right before the character speaks, where he overthrows the objects in the room out of anger. As he looks closely, he realizes that all these scattered props in the room aren't randomly thrown around. This kid was able to capture the emotions of the character perfectly. Finally, he points out to Junwoo that he was able to use a classic play he could barely understand even though he didn't know the terms. He eventually asks the kid what exactly he wants to become. Junwoo just looks at him in silence, so Mansik angrily asks him why he's always quiet when he has someone like him right next to him. He asks the kid to state the dream he's chasing and specifically asks him if he wants to become a stage manager or a director. After applying some more pressure, the kid finally states that his dream is just to live the way he is right now. That doesn't make sense to Mansik, so he asks him why he's doing all this if that's the case. Our boy explains that he only prepared the stage before the scene started, so Mansik asks him if he was planning to do the performance. Because Junwoo hesitates to answer, the man smugly points out that he's not denying it. He's intrigued that Junwoo is interested in acting too and explains that he only assumed he was into directing. He wonders if this was the reason the kid was so drawn to the stage. However, he points out that Junwoo would be better off directing than acting, from what he's seen. Eventually, he asks our boy if all of this was necessary since it's just one scene. Junwoo explains that he didn't place any of the objects by accident. Apparently, everything there serves a purpose. Regardless, Mansik insists that he's just making up excuses and adds that great actors can find their emotions anywhere. However, our boy reminds him that theater is different, and this is why they have the stage. Confused, the director asks him what the stage has to do with acting, so our boy explains. He explains that every part of the stage has to work together: the actors, the prop, and whatever else. Mantic asks him if his harmony is more important than the actor's ability. Our boy replies that this is part of it, but more importantly, he would like the stage itself to be perfect. The director tries to take the whole thing in, and when the kid notices his puzzled expression, he offers to show him what he's talking about. Suddenly, our boy plays out the scene and slams his hand on the table just like the character did. The atmosphere suddenly turns darker and Mantic watches in shock. As Junwoo acts out the role of an unsettled character, the director's eyes widen. He was captivated from the moment the act began, and he can recognize the face our boy is making as the face of someone who has nowhere else to go and nothing to lose. This kid wasn't just saying random words, but somehow he had transformed into someone entirely different. What's more odd is how he did it. As he began the act, the whites of his eyes became bloodshot, like someone who was truly distressed. Mantic wonders if it's even possible to be so immersed in such a short time. He watches adeptly as our boy continues his act. Our boy acts as a character who doesn't feel there's a point to all he's doing. As he steps back, he steps on a watch and slips. The director becomes alarmed that this is dangerous, so he becomes worried that placing too many objects on the ground has messed up the kid's movement. Meanwhile, Junwoo finally stabilizes himself with a nearby chair while still shivering from the intense shock of whatever the character is worried about. He soon sits at the table in obvious despair, and the perfection of his expression captures the director. He soon realizes that our boy slipping over the watch wasn't a mistake. Even the way he reached out for the chair was so natural. There was perfection in his posture, the angle of his collapsed body, and the broken props littered around. What's more is even the empty expression on his face as if he's lost all strength to get up. At that moment, the director realizes the kid was right after all, and every single part of this act was in true harmony. Once he finishes, our boy states that his act is over. Suddenly, Mantic tells him that this won't do because Junwoo has to get on stage. It's been 2 years since our guy left his father's. Since he doesn't have an identity, getting a part-time job wasn't easy. Although he can live luxuriously if he just decides to go back to the way he used to live, he has sworn to himself that he'd never do those kinds of things again. Even though it's hard, he eventually started to get satisfied with spending each day working at the construction site. It was slightly satisfying, but our boy knew the very thing his heart desperately wanted. One time, while eating on one of their breaks, one of the men working on the site tells him that a kid like him should be out running around and not stuck here. The man informs him that a theater opened up nearby, so he suggests he can go check it out. The mention of a theater enthralls Junwoo. Not long after, he steps foot in the theater and finds some actors on stage. Although he had been hoping they would have movies, he soon realizes they only handle plays. When he enters the theater, he notices a man watching from the middle of the audience, sighing intensely. However, our boy was only briefly disappointed that it wasn't a movie, and suddenly he started to feel overwhelmed. This is something he hasn't felt in a long time. He could feel the energy of the actors right from the stage, which is quite different from seeing it from a screen. For a moment, our guy felt an urge to be the one on the stage. From that day, he always headed to the theater right after work. Somehow it seemed his body kept moving him there without much thought. On one of those days, the director, who had always been sitting there also, asked him what his name was. Although to Junwoo, this man looked like a staff member of the theater. Although he found Mantic's nosiness slightly annoying at the time, he realizes he wasn't bad. He recognized that the men had a rough way of talking, but it was clear that he wasn't the type of person to really hurt anybody. He recalls how he roughly dragged him out of the construction site after he got swindled of his pay. It intrigues him that there are still people like this around, and it's clear that Mantic, too, must have had a hard life. It even brings a smile across his face. Back to the present, Mantic tells our boy that this won't do because he has to get on stage. Quite honestly, Junwoo didn't think much of acting. The emotions naturally flowed from his experience. However, the director had also believed the kid's age put a cap on his talent. A 17-year-old kid is limited, even though he knew the boy has a ridiculously sound brain that's completely different from having the talents of an artist. Eventually, this turned out to be narrow-minded thinking. The boy put up such an amazing performance, and it turns out those things were just preparation devices for acting. When Mantic offers that our boy go up on stage, our guide picks up the books on the ground and explains that he has no intention of doing that. Mantic tells him it's because he doesn't realize how amazing his talent is. He promises him that he could make it really big if he just trusts him and follows. Regardless, our guy insists that he likes how things are now. Insistently, the director asks him if all there is to this is using scripts in the practice room. He doesn't understand why our boy wouldn't have any desire to act, especially with the insane talent he has. Our guy tells him that he doesn't want to be famous. and that stops Mansic in his tracks. He realizes this kid knows about his talents, and somehow he knows that it's a given that he'll become famous if he starts acting. However, Mansic can see a future much brighter than just being famous, so he decides not to give up. He eventually tells Junwoo that he knows he's got some kind of dramatic past, but he believes our boy is still way too young to conclude about life after just living for a short time. He tells our Oi that it wasn't easy for him to get this far either. He promises to take care of whatever comes after he begins his acting career and urges him to live his life doing what he truly wants. It intrigues Junwoo that this man is offering to take responsibility for someone he's not even known for a month. He playfully asks Mansic if he's going to go as far as killing for him, and the man excitedly tells him he will excitedly kill them all for him. This surprises Junwoo, so Mansic asks him if he's in. Sometime later, our boy stands backstage and peeks into the stage from behind the curtains. This time, the theater is full of people patiently waiting for the act to begin. Our boy remembers that he understood the feeling of the old director, but he had only pretended to. He can relate to Mansic's burden of not wanting his talent to go to waste. Mansic did not only assign him a job where he could easily see the plays, but now he promised to take responsibility for him. He wonders if that was why he couldn't say no. Soon after, the light comes on and the curtain opens up. Our boy appears before the crowd, and Mansic excitedly watches nearby as the play begins. His assistant stands near him and asks him if this is the kid he mentioned before. Mansic excitedly tells him that it is and informs him not to be surprised because the kid is really something else. Concerned, the assistant reminds him that the lead of the play dropped out only 5 days ago, so he asks if this kid even had time to prepare in just 5 days. Since it's mostly just one person's lines, he knows that there must have been a lot of lines to master. When Mansic doesn't answer, the assistant asks him if his kid at least has some experience with theater. The director agrees that 5 days is an impossible amount of time, especially for a kid who never studied the basics of acting. Eventually, he tells his assistant that the boy didn't prepare in 5 days but in 12 hours. Stunned, his assistant asks him what he said, so Mansic replies again that they've only spent 12 hours preparing. The play soon begins and MC says his lines. His character is one who's describing how he was lost in the moments he experienced with someone. He despairs that once he's lost that person, the world has imprisoned him in darkness and silence. While he acts, several people are enthralled by his act, and 2 folks in the front start to talk about him. Our MC speaks about how time seemed to have stopped since he lost his significant other. He mentions that it's a feeling that he's never experienced before. Tears begin to drop from his eyes as his face fills up with more despair. As he speaks about the moment, his woman held his hand and smiled brightly, and then their first farewell, the entire room becomes glued to him with their mouths wide open. Our guy laments about how he couldn't do anything, and he soon stands up, leaving his chair to fall over to the side. Our guy tells his significant other about his past struggles and the choices he was forced to make. As he falls to his knees, he laments that they can't understand any of it. He tells this person that they were everything to him, and he wonders why they could say such a thing to him. The folks can't seem to turn their faces away now, and one woman has a hand over her mouth. Mansic's assistant looks equally surprised now, so he asks his boss where he found this monster. Even though Mansic recognizes that the boy's vocalization and breathing for the play aren't proper, he's intrigued that everyone in the theater is focused on the kid's acting. Mansic knows this doesn't come from memorization, but somehow our boy managed to make the life of the role they're playing their own. Somehow he's conveying the whole thing just the way the actual character would say it, with the tears and all. At one point, Mansic wonders if the boy is even acting at all. Shortly after, a female actor appears on stage and Junwoo calls her Ellie. She soon slips, but our guy quickly catches her and stabilizes her. While in his arms, he pleads with her not to and begs her not to do this. Suddenly, Ellie tells him that there's something else she didn't tell him and there was a reason she couldn't answer him before. She tries to tell him the reason, but the female actor suddenly forgets her lines. Immediately, Mansic realizes she's forgotten her lines. Since she's a new actor with little stage experience, this kind of thing happens often. Although it can be okay for movies and dramas, there are no redos in a live play. He begins to panic, and he hopes they continue as if nothing happened because there's no other way. Suddenly, our guy improvises and adds new lines to fill up her part. He places a hand on her face and tells her she doesn't have to say it because he knew, surprising the female actor. As tears flow from his eyes, he tells her it's okay and hugs her. As the curtains close, several of the audience are stunned and some of the ladies are in tears. The curtain soon closes and the crowd goes wild in applause. While backstage, our guy returns to his normal self. Suddenly, Mansic begins to laugh maniacally at how excellent the performance was after only being prepared for just 12 hours. He knows most actors would take over 2 weeks just to analyze the character and understand it. They'd also have to memorize lines and adjust their movements to match with the props around them. In 12 hours, our boy was able to memorize his lines and even made up for a supporting actor's mistake. Mansik's assistant confesses that he can't believe that the crowd reacted this way just in the first act, and Mansik agrees with him. His assistant asks again if the boy is really 17 and wonders how they prepare such acting in such a short time. Amused, the director corrects that the kid didn't only prepare the acting. He informs his assistant that the stage concept, the chair size, movements, lighting, color schemes, and every other thing were changed by Junwoo. Mansik's assistant wonders if he really went through with all the boy's suggestions, so Mansik confesses that the kid had a lot to add to everything. And since he's been saying many things he can't understand, he has no choice but to play along. However, Mansik confesses that the one thing he knows is that the kid is more outstanding than anyone else here right now. While in the changing room, the female actor paces around as she goes over her lines. Meanwhile, our guy sits nearby as he tries to process his feelings. It's not the first time he's acted. He played numerous roles in his past life when he went around committing fraud, and he knows his talents. However, this time it was different. Seeing the gazes focused on him, seeing them move to tears, was something else. When the emotions reached their peak, he felt as if they were in another world for a moment. This is unfamiliar to him. In this, his second life, he had decided to die and abandon his name. He had believed he couldn't live like this. But now that he's able to use the same talent this way, he wonders if he could really live like this. Mansik enters the room. The female actor lowers her head, feeling bad for not performing well. But he doesn't even glance at her. He walks straight to Junwoo, grabs him by the shoulder, and says he's surprised. He thought Junwoo was just fooling around like it's tough for him. But it turns out he's actually good at acting. He asks if he's not going to look at the script. Junwoo says he feels dizzy. Mansik doesn't drop it. He questions him. He didn't even pause to check the script before, and now he doesn't even want to look at it at all. Junwoo replies that he didn't want to get trapped by the lines. Mansik reacts with slight anger, saying, "What kind of nonsense is that?" But the words ring a bell. Somewhere in his memory, he's heard them before. A few lines float through his mind. Preparing for a play means keeping the character in your heart. Otherwise, if an actor keeps staring at the script, they'll get trapped by the lines. If they truly understand the emotions of the character, the lines come out naturally. He remembers now, these words were said by a veteran actress with over 20 years of experience. She never looks at the script on set. And now this boy, someone who stepped on stage for the first time and not even for the full play, just act one, is saying the same thing. Mansik is blown away. It should feel like empty bluffing, but it doesn't. Each word from Junwoo somehow carries a strange kind of strength. Junwoo adds that besides the lines, the script has too many unfamiliar terms. It's just giving him a headache. Mansik's eyes widen. He's surprised Junwoo still isn't familiar with stage terms. He begins to wonder if Junwoo really threw the script away without thinking. He closes his eyes, searching for a solution, unsure where to even start. Just then, the stage manager tells them that Act 2 is about to begin and asks them to get ready. Junwoo calls out to Mansik, calling him Mr., and says he's heading onto the stage. He walks up confidently and starts acting. The crowd is stunned by his performance. They go wild. A man in the audience wearing a cap watches with sharp eyes, clapping. It seems he's found what he was looking for. The next day after the performance, Junwoo is reading a book. Mansik walks in and asks if he plans to stare at books for the rest of his life. Junwoo looks up and asks where he's been, saying he hasn't seen him since morning. Mansik empties a bag full of books onto the ground and asks Junwoo if these are enough for now. Before he can even reply, Mansik says these new ones might not be exciting, but they'll help. He guesses Junwoo has gone through some kind of frustration before. There's only one bookstore in town, located far away in the city center. Despite the heat, Mansik went all the way there. Junwoo realizes his casual comment from yesterday must have stayed in Mansik's mind. That's why he brought the books. He begins reading while Mansik watches him. He wonders if Junwoo even needs these books full of theory, or if they'll just lock up his raw instincts. But for now, this is what he can do for himself. Junwoo says the book is fun to read. Mansik asks if it's actually helpful. It's Junwoo's first time studying seriously. He's surprised it's more fun than expected. Mansik is even more surprised. He asks if it's really his first time diving into this stuff. He wonders how someone with zero background can act like that. Junwoo answers that it's not just actors who act well. Mansik doesn't get it at first. Our hero tells him to be careful, as guys like him are easy targets in the outside world. Mansik tries to understand what Junwoo meant. Then he points out that he is doing it right now, jumping in without knowing anything about him. Junwoo closes the book and asks if Mansik wants him to become famous. He replies, not really. Then what? Mansik says something honest. He just wants Junwoo to do what he really wants to do. It took him a long time to figure that out himself. He worries that Junwoo might think he's being used. He says even if he messed up the stage, he still would have brought the books for himself. After a pause, he adds probably. Junwoo quickly replies it's not like that. If he really thought Mansik was using him, he would have already taken over the theater. He thanks him for the books, saying he really needed them. Mansik asks again, really? Junwoo nods. He's already decided he'll pay him back someday. Just then, a man shows up to meet Mansik. He is shocked to see him. The man asks if he's the one running this theater. Mansik recognizes him. He knows who this is. But before anything, one question comes to mind. Why is he here? Seeing this man, Mansik starts thinking about NK Entertainment, a famous gathering place for top Korean actors. In that company, this man handles actor project matches and has cast for several major films and dramas. The projects he's taken on have all been big successes. Even people outside the industry know his name. This man is NK Entertainment's director, Choi Jamin. He wonders why someone like him is here. He asks what brings him. Jamin says he enjoyed yesterday's play and then asks about Junwoo. He asks if Junwoo is a member of this theater company. Mansik replies with a yes, even though Junwoo isn't officially part of it, he just works here. Jamin says he wants to make an offer and apologizes for coming without notice. He adds that this is the first time he's acted this quickly. He says it's been a while since he felt like he discovered a true gem. Mansik asks if he's thinking of casting him, and Jamin replies that it's not just any casting. He explains they're having trouble finding a child actor for an upcoming project. He says they're looking for someone extremely rare since only sharp, emotionally aware kids can act well. Otherwise, it's hard to show maturity on screen. He says Junwoo already acted like a 30-year-old without any awkwardness in yesterday's play and even beyond that, despite still being a kid. He can't believe such talent is hidden in a place like this. Mansik agrees and says Junwoo's skills go far beyond exceptional. Mansik asks him if he has any plans for our hero. Jamin asks if he really said plans. Mansik says he knows NK Entertainment's scale, and he's wondering if Junwoo would be given proper training, international projects, overseas education, and chances to attend global events, assuming that's what Junwoo wants. Jamin asks if he seriously wants all that for someone so young, someone with no experience yet. Mansik replies that it's because he knows how much potential Junwoo has. That's why he's here, waiting like this. Jamin says he'll try his best, but it's not something he can decide on his own. But from his hesitation, Mansik already senses that Jamin hasn't fully understood Junwoo's real potential. What he's seen so far isn't even half of it. Jamin hands over his company card and says they want to help the child by giving him the right environment. He says he hopes Mansik will think about what's truly best for Junwoo and choose the path that helps him grow. He leaves, asking him to think it through and let him know if they're interested. Mansik starts thinking seriously. He has no money, and Junwoo isn't someone who cares about money, but still, this is a big decision. He peeks through the door and assumes Junwoo must be bored by now reading for so long. He walks in and asks if he's doing all right. He also asks why he never asks any questions, even though he has a great teacher like him. He guesses that Junwoo must have some curiosity. Junwoo says the script was translated beforehand, but when comparing it with reference materials, some meanings feel different. Mansik asks to see it and says he has 5 years of field experience, though he studied even more than that. He wonders if this is the moment where he can finally be of help. But as soon as Junwoo points to the section he's confused about, Mansik realizes he can't understand it either. He studied classical texts, but only the translated versions. Flustered, he gets up, pretends to have a stomachache, and rushes out. He tells Junwoo to keep looking at the books for now. Once outside, he quietly wonders how much more Junwoo will keep surprising him. He wanted to help him, but Junwoo, who only recently started acting, is already growing too fast for him to keep up. He mutters that although he's had many failures, this is the first time he feels like he himself isn't enough. He questions how much he can guide Junwoo with such limited knowledge. Later, Junwoo asked about another part, which luckily Mansik does understand. He explains that Brecht's wall theory refers to an invisible wall between the audience and the stage. In Brecht's plays, actors break this wall and talk directly to the audience, connecting the story to real-life social messages, not just entertainment. Junwoo nods and says he understands. He asked about another part, and this one isn't difficult either. Later, Mansik sits at his desk and looks at an old book he once read. He never thought he'd pick it up again at this age. He wonders if he was ever that passionate about learning when he first stepped into the world of theater. He remembers that excitement didn't last very long. He grabs his head, thinking when talent is mixed with affection and passion, Junwoo's growth becomes unbelievable. At this point, our hero no longer needs theory books. His level already goes beyond most professionals. He sneaks into the theater and watches silently. When the staff leaves, Junwoo sets up the empty stage on his own and starts copying scripts. Junwoo focuses on every small detail, character emotions, habits, and movement, even how the lighting changes based on each scene's mood. This isn't ordinary work. This is real art. He practices keeping just the emotional beats of the script and rewrites the dialogue to match it. He's no longer just practicing, he's enjoying the stage completely all by himself. Seeing this, Mansik makes a decision. For Junwoo's future, this might really be the better path. He calls Jem and tells him to put everything else aside. They need to talk in person. The scene shifts to a restaurant where Junwoo and Mansik are eating. Mansik wonders what to do next while our hero focuses on his food. Mansik recalls Jamin's words. He told him he made the right decision and assured him that they would meet the conditions he mentioned. Jamin also said that if Junwoo needs anything else, he wants to talk about it with him. Mansik told Jamin he would discuss that matter with Junwoo later. He asked if Junwoo is free tomorrow because he wants to see his acting using their script. He immediately asks about the acting, but says not to feel pressured. He tells him to think of it as a chance to look around the company so they can see if his training style fits. Jamin says that with these conditions, the contract is basically confirmed. He claims no aspiring actor would dare turn down the offer he's giving. Mansik knows Junwoo's nature and doubts he will agree so easily. He imagines asking Junwoo to go on a Seoul trip, expecting him to say he'd rather read the script than waste time. He thinks if he goes himself, maybe Junwoo's mind will change, but he wonders how to convince him. Junwoo asks why Mansik isn't eating. Mansik says if he's not eating, he will eat his food, and Mansik lets him. Junwoo asks if he should order more, but Mansik says no. He's fine. Mansik asks himself why he is so cautious around Junwoo. Suddenly, he asks if Junwoo has ever been to Seoul. Junwoo says no, and Mansik wonders what he has even been doing all this time without going to Seoul. He asks if Junwoo has ever traveled anywhere, and Junwoo says he's never been on a trip. Mansik is shocked and angrily asks why he never traveled when he could have. Realizing he went off track, he asks if Junwoo has at least heard of the Yuksam building. He says it's in Seoul and that he would be amazed to see it. Mansik adds it has 63 floors. Junwoo says that's amazing. Mansik says he has to go to Seoul tomorrow for a bit and asks if Junwoo is bored so he can come see it. He says Seoul is on a completely different level compared to this rural place. He asks if Junwoo has heard of Myeongdong and says there are huge buildings lined up there. He asks if Junwoo is curious. He adds the Han River, which can't compare to the streams they have here. He says he's just saying, and he asks Mansik if he wants to send him off that badly. Mansik says he just means to come see Seoul. Junwoo says that's disappointing and asks when he became that greedy. Mansik is shocked and asks what he means, then realizes Junwoo knew everything. He wonders if Junwoo eavesdropped on his call or if he's already been in contact with Jamin without him knowing. Mansik says if he had known, he would have talked to Junwoo beforehand. Our hero asks if they're going to Seoul tomorrow, and Mansik is very surprised but confirms they are. Mansik asks if Junwoo wants to visit anywhere there. He says not really. Mansik doubts if Junwoo is really coming with him. He thinks he must have mentioned it jokingly, like he thinks he is taking him for professional training. He clears it up, saying he's not taking him there to make him better. Junwoo says he knows. Mansik explains that the company is so big he can't even imagine it. He says he doesn't know the situation, but they can help later. Most importantly, Mansik says Junwoo should meet people on his level. No matter how well he acts, everyone in that theater is still a rookie. Mansik says Junwoo should be lucky and don't ruin his stage and wonders what those kids really know. Junwoo asks where it is exactly. Mansik says it's called NK Entertainment and says people there will recognize his value. Junwoo says alright. Mansik wonders why Junwoo is so obedient when he's not usually like that. He asks himself if Junwoo broke the stage or something. Mansik asks again if they are really going. The next day, they arrive at NK Entertainment. Mansik is amazed to see the production studio he saw on TV and the newest equipment released this year. Seeing Mansik's reaction, Junwoo asks what's wrong since this isn't even Mansik's first time outside the county. Mansik asks if Junwoo means he's making a fuss. Junwoo says no, he didn't mean that. They arrive at the meeting room and are told to wait there. Mansik sighs in relief and says, let's go see then. Junwoo asks if Mansik will come inside with him. Mansik opens the door for Junwoo and wishes him to do his best. Junwoo responds obediently. Junwoo enters the room. They welcome him and ask him to sit. Junwoo recognizes them. One is Jamin, and next to him is NK Entertainment's signature actor, Gil Chono. Chono is not a top actor, but anyone who watches movies can easily recognize him. Junwoo thinks Juno is a solid supporting actor and figures someone like him wouldn't normally come to a place like this, which means he's brought here on purpose. Junwoo looks like a younger version of himself, and Jaemin asks for his name. Chuno says he doesn't have one yet and is planning to choose one soon. The director wonders if he has already thought of a stage name, noticing he doesn't seem nervous, almost like he doesn't really know who he is. The director guesses it's possible since Junwoo lived in a rural theater. He says they get to know each other little by little. He compliments his performance from that day and asks when he started acting. Junwoo answered 2 weeks ago, that his first performance was 2 weeks ago. The director asks again, not quite believing it. Junwoo adds it was his first time. The director thinks, what is he saying? Has it really only been 2 weeks since he started acting? Then he hands Junwoo a script for a movie their company is planning. Junwoo remembers a story from his past life about a high schooler and a 40-year-old teacher who swap bodies. The director asks Junwoo to act out a scene before talking further, even if just for a moment. Junwoo glances toward the door and notices Mansik sneaking in, though Mansik can't hear the conversation. The director tells Junwoo to start reading from page 34. Juno is surprised. Most aspiring actors he's seen recently beg to show their acting and claim they admire him, but Junwoo doesn't seem desperate like that. Juno knows Jaemin would have thrown someone like this out and made sure they never act again. He wonders how good Junwoo really is. Our hero imagines the scenes and dialogues in his mind. The director says it's not hard and asks if he wants to try. Junwoo looks around and says he can't do it here. Jaemin asks why and if there's a problem. Junwoo explains he can't be immersed in the lines properly, and Jaemin asks in frustration if the location is the problem. Junwoo says it's not about feeling immersed. Most people practice in quiet places like this, but it's not just about quiet, it's about the background noises. The sound of skateboards, laughter, chatter, even the wind coming through the window. He says the noise mixes with the lines, and that's what's missing here. The director, confused by the talk, wonders what difference it makes. Juno thinks for a moment and takes the script. Jaemin asks what's wrong. The director is also puzzled because he's never seen Juno like this before. He recalls the conditions Mansik set earlier. He asks Junwoo, even if the conditions aren't perfect, can't he just try? He adds, think of it as a simple audition or reading. Junwoo's ears perk up when he hears audition, since that's what he thought this was. He says he didn't understand and asks if they mean for him to just sit here and act. He also thinks the scene needs a partner and looks at Chuno, who was the featured performer. He remembers some scenes from his movie. He thinks it would be fun and asks if there's another script. The director asks why he needs another script. Junwoo replies that it's better to match the timing with Chuno. At the audition, Han suggests that it would be better to work with Gil together rather than alone. Director Joy is impressed by Han having guts at such a young age, but states that Han's suggestion would be difficult to do. Gil interrupts them and wants to try to work together on the dialogue and asks Joy for another script. Joy is surprised to see Gil being enthusiastic and working with a kid who just started acting and wonders what he saw in him. Gil and Han start acting from the script. Gil shows his profound talent and changes his voice according to the actor and dialogue as a teenager in a 40-year-old man's body, making the director smile with his skills. However, when Han starts his lines, even Gil is intimidated by his level of acting. The actor was shocked when a teenager could adopt a slight trace of the middle schooler from his acting style and wondered how could Han do this at ease just after his 2 lines. The two continue the act and are even more impressed by Han's subtle gestures and firm expressions being flawless for the character. Gil could not believe that such a kid existed to be able to manipulate him without any prior preparation and could not understand who was following whom. If Han had decided to, he could easily have buried Gil's performance with ease. Han found this acting different from what is usually done in theaters and thanks Gil, who is still wondering what it would be like to work properly with this kid, and responds that he enjoyed working with Han as well and that he will not forget witnessing this performance. Joy jumps up exclaiming that this performance was beyond what he expected and that he is at a loss of words and suggests discussing the contract in detail. Gil asks Han if he changed his method a bit on purpose, and Han confirms it that he would have done it differently originally and explains that the gestures will be changed for a close-up camera frame from the one he just adjusted in this situation, only to be asked by the actor if he does theater. Later, the theater producer walks in the room where he is shocked to find Gil sitting there waiting for him. The producer cannot believe that he had heard the famous actor Gil reading lines with Han and notices Gil's expression, wondering if the boy's attitude had angered him. Gil asks him if he runs a theater, to which he confirms that he runs a small theater in the countryside, only to be asked about the number of productions he has done so far. The producer is curious about the actor's questions, only to learn that he wants to perform on stage. Although he has mixed feelings of excitement about this, but reveals that he could not match the pay of the great actor because of recent cancellations and a loss of audience. However, Gil does not care much about the money, making the producer believe that he has come to an agreement with the kid, which he confirms, so there was no problem in it. Gil further asks if Han has only worked in this theater, as he finds it hard to believe the kid to be from such a theater group, and apologizes for his offense to the producer. Gil is even more impressed when the producer explains that Han just studies books and scripts all the time, implying that he is a self-learned, naturally gifted child without prior training. They both agree and look forward to working together. Han is looking at a painting on the wall, reminiscing his past memories and what happened at the audition, only to be caught up by Joy, who suggests rethinking his thoughts about not joining the production as it would be a good opportunity in the boy's career, which he cannot get elsewhere, only to be turned down once again by him. Throughout his career, Joy has never felt more disappointed as he did now, yet he still suggests Han to contact him if he ever needs help in his performance or wishes to change his mind and join the production, handing out his card to the boy. Later the next day, the producer is working on the preparations for the stage, making him exhausted. He is still in deep thought and excited about Han and Gil performing together on his stage. Han walks up asking why the producer is here working on the stage so early in the morning and questions that it did not personally have been done by Han when there is an employee present. The producer tells Han to go practice, but later changes his statement to let him take a break or find some other activity for the time being, also asking the boy how the prepared stage looked. Han asks if the preparation was for the upcoming performance, and his boss tells him that he only did some tweaks. Han is thinking about the producer that he studied theater and runs a theater for a long time, and seeing him put in these efforts shows his expectations for the upcoming performance, later responding that the stage looks much better. The producer cannot seem to understand one thing and curiously wonders why Han refused the production opportunity when he is willing to perform with Gil on stage, because could easily have gotten many scripts from famous writers that way and could have done more acting. Yet he chose to be here. Han does not seem to remember the reason, and the producer knows that he only stayed because of him. Han changes the topic and suggests having kimchi for breakfast, leaving his boss enraged. Later, the producer is spying Han and Gil's rehearsal for the performance and wonders if Gil is actually ambitious about the stage or obsessed with something else. If someone else were to see the two actors rehearsing, they would probably think of it as a scene from a play. The producer thought that Gil, being a renowned actor, would only come down on the day of the performance, but to his surprise, the actor not only came at practice every day, but even rented a place nearby. Gil used to arrive every morning even before the producer without any signs of fatigue, but rather enjoyed the situation of bonding with the kid and discussing acting. One time, Han and his boss were wondering why the actor stayed longer and did not think about leaving. The producer even asked the kid if Gil always had a constipated face and was surprised that the actor turned out to be friendlier than expected. Even Han instructed Gil on many occasions that he had to find his own path rather than imitating. Things seem to have changed so far. Later, a week before the performance, the producer was thinking that all the preparations had been done. However, there was one problem. All the actors were chosen for the performance except for one. The actor to play the fugitive Pavel's name was not revealed yet because the producer wondered if Han would be comfortable with it. The producer is reading the theater online forum. The people are excited by Gil being part of the performance as expected from his fame, as he used to only choose films by master directors, and now his sudden appearance on stage is naturally a great topic. The producer was kind of relieved that the actor's fame had buried the problem at hand, casting Han's character as fugitive Pavel. The producer was worried that there was only a week left in the performance and the final cast list had not been announced yet, when he saw the lights of the theater turned on and went to check it out, wondering who could be there at this hour. There he is surprised to see his theater all shining and spotless, and the one to make this happen was none other than Han. Han asks his boss why he came at this hour, who still cannot believe the miracle that happened. The boy asks him if he did not like it, but he is still in disbelief that this could be his theater, which looks like a small version of the National Theater. The producer's efforts to read all the directing theory books were not in vain, and not even anything expensive was added to the set, so how was it still turned into this atmosphere? Han states that all he did was add a little to what the producer had already been doing, and that he was not just watching him doing the work. The boy gets exhausted and brushes his hair back, only to be noticed by the producer, who admires his handsome face and questions why he always hides it. Han thinks that he always kept his face hidden because of his past life, so he never thought of going barefaced, but feels sorry when he looks at his boss thinking things over. Han knew that this performance would be on a completely different level from his previous one with less than 20 people, and had a slight idea that this event might bring out rumors related to him in one way or another. Han had already come this far and kind of regretted suppressing himself all this time, a second life he obtained. The producer is ready to take responsibility for whatever next happens to Han. so that he can live doing what he wants, so he asks the boy if he is comfortable with his name added on the cast list, only to know that he has no problem with it and will not cause any problem for his boss. The producer asks one more time and explains about the news and everything, but Han states that it cannot be worse than death. The producer assures Han that he will take care of everything, and all the boy has to do is focus on the stage, stating that he will make sure nothing happens to him because he performed at his theater. Finally, Han's name is added to the cast list as the fugitive Pavel. Finally, the day of the performance has come, and the producer is wondering that it has been a while since Gil had last performed on stage, and just seeing him on stage makes his fans faint, and even the titting for the stage was insane for this performance. The fans are questioning how this small theater managed to book Gil, as it had been a while since he last performed, so they are more excited than ever. The producer had expected this from Gil's fame. He had seen the actor during the practice, and now seeing the audience, he is sure that he's a famous actor. The audience is admiring this small theater, which is unlike any other, making the producer smile and proud. Back in the actors' waiting room, Gil and Han, along with the other actors, are preparing themselves for the performance. The boy looks at himself in the mirror and finds it to be unfamiliar when the producer walks in and gets the actors ready to go on stage. The play was about Anton, Gil's character, who lost his family and leg to a man. From then on, Anton's chase for the man began. Then there was Pavel, Han's character, who got entangled in the chase by mistake. The inner psyches of the characters were key for this play. Gil starts his performance with his monologue. The audience is admiring his performance, longing to see him perform on stage. One of the fans even starts recording his performance, as he may never get another chance to see him on stage again, and even the producer is in admiration of his performance. The monologue ends, and the producer believes that he might need to think there is nothing more to see after the actor's performance. All of a sudden, Han enters with his dialogue. Although he was a 17-year-old boy, yet his posture and way of speaking showed him to be a grown man. No one saw him as a young boy. The audience held their breath with their eyes fixed on Han, and he was giving chills to everyone with his performance. The audience, the producer, the backstage crew, and even Gil's manager were captivated by the boy's overwhelming performance. Gil's presence started to fade slowly from the view in front of Han, leaving everyone captivated and speechless. The stage ended, and the crowd burst into applause and wondered who Han was, and wondered if his performance is the real meaning of theater. Gil had always been proud of his acting and always had respect for this stage, but all his pride and all he had learnt were somehow shamed a bit. It seemed all the audience's praise and attention had now been directed towards Han. Thanks for watching, everyone. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.